This is Jen Judkins with Teaching Forward. In this tutorial video, we're going to cover how to create a discipline referral workflow using a single Google form and the formMule add-on. To get started, I want to overview the workflow for you so that you can see how it works, and then we'll step through the specifics of how you build this. The first thing is that there is a single form, and the first question on the form determines what type of entry is happening. Initially, the teacher will submit an incident report by selecting the first option and completing the details about the incident. That will immediately allow them to submit the form, and that generates an automated email to the school administrator. In that automated email, it provides a summary of the incident as well as an edit URL that will take the administrator back to the form the teacher filled out and allow them to select the administrative response option, which will branch the form into a second section that they then complete their portion of the administrator response. This will include questions that they'll respond to, such as the type of action and any notes related to their discipline with the student. When the administrator completes and submits the form, an automated email is generated to the teacher that provides them an update as to what action was taken. So now that you understand how this works, let's take a look at how to create this for your district. To save time, I've created a template form that you can use. To copy this, go to gg.gg/formsdiscipline. Click the Use Template button in the top right-hand corner, and this will make a copy of the Google form that's ready to go. I'm going to briefly point out the pieces of the form that are essential to making this work so that you understand what pieces need to remain in the final version as you want to customize for your own school district. You'll notice that this form is comprised of two sections. That's because the first section is what the teacher completes and what is part of this initial staff incident report. You'll notice if you click on this question, you'll see that I have enabled the go to sections based on answer feature. In order to do this, click on the bottom right-hand corner of a question and select that. This allows me to direct the user to different parts of the form based on the selection they make in this first question. So the teacher only sees the first part of the form where they're filling out information about the incident. If I scroll down, you'll see there's a second part of the form that's only accessible if someone chooses that second option of an administrator response. And from here, it will go through different questions related to the administrator. And at the bottom of this form, there is an admin password. This is here just simply to ensure that staff don't accidentally click on the wrong choice in the first part of the form, finding themselves in the administrative part of this form. It's not really a password, but what I've done is I've used the data validation feature. I'll show you how I access that. If you click on the question and in the bottom corner choose response validation, I can set it so that the answer has to contain a word that I've set as the password. In this case, I've used the word behave. So once you have this form, let's practice submitting it because we need to have responses to work with in order to structure our spreadsheet. So since we're mimicking the first part of this, I'm going to choose Initial Staff Incident Report. And it is essential that there be a question where the staff member types in their email address manually. That's because this field cannot change throughout the process. Remember, we're using a single form in two different ways. Two different people will be editing the responses, and so if you were to use the automatic email capture feature in Google Forms, the staff member's email would be overwritten by the administrator who then later edits the form response. So this piece needs to stay. Once I complete all of the fields of the form, when I choose next, because I've completed this as a teacher, it's immediately going to bring me to form submit. So I'm going to submit this, and then let's take a look at the email that comes to the administrator. So the email that comes in to my inbox looks like this with a link for the administrator to complete their portion of the form. Let's take a look at the spreadsheet so I can walk you through how to set this automation up. So looking at the responses spreadsheet, the first thing you need to do is install the formMule add-on. First go to Add-ons, Get Add-ons, and search for formMule. I have it installed already, so I'm going to open it. First, you're going to choose the responses spreadsheet that you're pointing to. Make sure to enable the form submit trigger and check this box to log the edit URL for each submission. The first time you do this, it will throw an error and require you to complete the form the first time with just some sample information so that it will create the first row in the spreadsheet. That's necessary for this edit URL feature to work on the second submission. So again, since I've already done this, I'm going to take a look at the next piece, which is the templates. formMule's function is that it allows you to create multiple email templates that trigger automatically based on certain conditions. In this case, I want 2 different unique emails. You'll see that right here. You can choose as many as you want, but in my case, I want one email that will notify the administrator when the teacher submits the form, which is why my send conditions are timestamp is not null or not empty. So any new submission will trigger this email. The second email I want is a summary for the teacher. That's going to happen every time my entry type, that was that first question in my form, is equal to administrative response admins only. Make sure that you're copying and pasting the exact wording of that response in that first question so that it will trigger the email correctly. The next place I go is to save the templates, and then I can begin to create them. So here you'll see I have my first email template, which is the administrator notification. Here you type in the administrator's address. If you want multiple addresses here, you just separate them by commas. In some cases, you may want to create a workflow where the administrator is different based on the student. This is possible, but a little bit more involved. I have done that before, and I use the VLOOKUP function to cross-reference a specific student name with their advisor. We're not going to cover that in this video, but it is possible using a VLOOKUP. So in the reply to, I usually put the staff member email, and I do that by grabbing the merge tag. So over on the right-hand side, all of these buttons represent column data that comes in from the form into the spreadsheet. So anything that's in the spreadsheet, I can place in here using these merge tags. So I've simply clicked staff email so that if the administrator replies, it's going to go back to the referring staff member. The subject I've typed in here will appear every time. And then in the body of the email, I just type in a brief message letting them know where to get to the edit URL. Again, this is simply the merge tag right here. I also like to put in the summary information related to the incident. So again, you can choose the fields here that you want to populate in the email. This can be customized any way you want. Let's take a look at the email to the teacher, which would come after the administrator fills out their part of the form. So again, in the to, I grab the merge field for the staff email. The reply to is the administrator's email. And then in this case, I usually just have the comments to the referring staff member. There are a number of other fields, like how many detentions are assigned. There's an internal notes for the administrator field. I just include specific notes that, that the administrator would type into this particular field. It's totally up to you what would go back to the teacher summary. Just make sure that the administrator understands which pieces of information are going back to the teacher. Now that you've finished that, you can just hit preview and send all, and it will configure this so that it will run automatically. Congratulations! You've completed your first Discipline Referral workflow. To learn more about this and other great ideas, check us out online at teachingforward.net.